This is a story of history repeating itself, an event long forgotten on a popular beach a couple of hours north of Sydney. 80 years later, another tragic day.
I've surfed at Redhead for 35 years and never seen a shark, and this day was like no other day.
The decision to go for a surf or not, despite a few mates saying the conditions weren't great, changed Glenn's life forever.
I paddled out and I was getting good waves after everyone had said there was no good waves.
Himself seemed ideal, but being further out and alone may have been Glenn's downfall. He was thinking about coming in when the decision was rapidly made for him, when he realized he wasn't on his own.
I was facing east, and from the south was just this almighty hit, like a rubbery boat that felt like sandpaper and just a massive weight behind it.
The massive weight was about 350 kilos of bull shark, roughly about 10 foot long, aggressive and keen to make his mark.
Here they hit you with an impact to disable you, and then they finish you off.
Bull sharks are the master of low visibility water, and they're specialists at working those inshore waters where it can be murky, hard to see, camouflaged. The inshore waters cover a range of environments from estuaries and rivers to coastal waters, highlighting the bull shark's ability to live in both fresh and salt water. They have triangular serrated teeth on the upper jaw and generally feed on fish and other smaller sharks. They're known for a bite, shake, and release attack, aiming to grab their prey and kill it straight away.
There's probably more attacks by bull sharks on people than any other species.
Richard Fitzpatrick is a marine biologist who has dedicated much of his time to researching sharks.
They're very attuned to, vibrations in the water, sound in the water, and odor in the water, and they're using their electrical sense to feed. So, it's basically a shark that has to work in a zero visibility environment 24/7. So they're a pretty amazing animal.
For Glenn, amazing is an understatement. This animal is extremely powerful, hostile, and armed for assault.
I knew, just instinctively, that I was in deep. I was probably not going to get out of it. I was sort of really, I was in a spot for sure. A spot a surfer doesn't want to be in at all. The worst position a surfer can be in, really.
In a state of shock, Glenn was losing awareness of time. His senses were on overtime, confused, not thinking, not knowing what was going on. His body was in a massive state of alarm.
It knocked me out when it hit me. I came up drowning, and the shark was laying end to end in front of me with the dorsal fin 2 feet high in front of my face.
Instinct took over. Decisions were reactions. No time to think about his next move. Miraculously, Glenn's surfboard, now with a chunk missing, was still attached to his leg. He put it between himself and the shark as a shield of defense.
Get on the surfboard. This is your only shot. You've only got one chance.
Focusing on survival, Glenn paddled his board toward the beach, gently at first, as though trying to sneak away unnoticed. But he was already leaving a trail of blood. Reality was kicking in. He had to go for it.
It all happened so fast. I got on the board and I was moving because I knew there was no time to, have a discussion with the fish. It was hungry. I was its dinner, and it's not the way I wanted to die, getting eaten alive,
The attack happened about 60 meters from the beach. Glenn paddled half the distance back to shore. Still in shock, he thought he was going to pass out and drown.
I didn't know that my leg was damaged until I looked over my shoulder, my left shoulder, to see where the shark was. And he was about 10 feet behind me in my blood trail. And that's when I knew that I'd been attacked by a shark. That confirmed my worst fear.
That's what generally happens with bull shark attacks. You find these really nasty injuries on the lower parts of the torsos. If it's someone's thrashing around next to it, it'll strike out at it and have an accidental bite on a person.
The shark didn't waste any time. He was on Glenn's tail, getting closer by the second, hungry for more, wanting another bite. Glenn was racing to escape, full of fear, knowing the gap was closing, paddling for life, when, at that critical moment, an unexpected act of bravery turned everything around.
There was one person that just stood out and put his life on the line.
It was another surfer who had stepped into the ring. While many were scrambling to safety, Nathan Vischer had sprint paddled into the bloodied water to help swim Glenn back to the beach.
It was like my last moments. That's what it was like. It was like my last moments. But it all turned around when Nathan arrived. I could not believe a person had stepped into this crazy situation to help, you know? I still can't believe it. But I remember his right hand slapping me on the left shoulder here, and I just went around like this thinking it was you-know-who, and it wasn't you-know-who with the teeth. It was Nathan come to help me. And he said my face was grey from blood loss and shock, and my eyeballs were like golf balls, he said. They were bulging out of my head, and I guess that was from fear.
The shark was now outnumbered, and for whatever reason, it seemed that retreat was the best option. The best option for the shark, and for Glenn, the best option of all.
But if he didn't intervene, the shark probably would have got me, because I think the shark felt outweighed by the two presence of these two big things, myself and Nathan. When I looked, it was at 10 feet. I was just beside myself with fear. And Nathan intervened at that time, which is the critical moment, really, you know.
Nathan Vischer was awarded the Australian Bravery Medal for his selfless determination to rescue Glenn. But a bravery award wasn't even on his radar back on that ill-fated day. He had a job to do, and he needed to stay alert, his wits about him. Be ready, if need be, to encounter the shark. Nathan had Glenn safely to shore. Lifeguards were waiting. The tourniquet was secured. The paramedics arrived. Oxygen was keeping Glenn stable.
I saw this big hole in the leg and went, oh, don't look at that. That's not good. That'll just make it worse.
Glenn knew there was something wrong with his leg. There was only dull pain for such a traumatic injury, but the blood was pouring out. There was blood in the water. It was on the beach. There was a trail marking his tracks.
I think the fear, you could probably call that a pain in a way. The fear itself, the fear of being chased. The physical side of it is not, you know, as relevant to me as that fear when it chased me to the beach.
There was concern amongst the medics on the beach that Glenn had damaged his femoral artery, but despite the shark ripping and tearing a large chunk of muscle and flesh from his leg, the artery was intact. But 3 different muscles had been severed, and a major tendon was missing from the pelvis to the knee.
The bite itself was just a huge pressure kind of feeling, and I realised that pressure feeling came from the massive clamping of the jaws, and him grinding away at me was that pressure. He spent a fair bit of time grinding away at me by the looks of it. There's marks left on the femur bone, there's teeth marks on the femur.
Teeth marks on the femur presented a new set of confronting issues. Whilst the bite of the shark was devastating, the bacteria in its mouth is an additional killer. Any slight piercing of the bone and the infection could be fatal. Glenn had 2, possibly 3 teeth marks that needed to be examined.
I was lucky that those teeth marks didn't penetrate the bone. If they penetrated the bone, those teeth, the leg would have been taken straight off.
Bull sharks have very sharp, serrated, triangular teeth that are located in rows inside the jaw. The first 2 rows are used to attack their prey. The other rows are on standby to rotate in as needed, replacing worn down, broken, or lost teeth. This endless supply of teeth produce a dirty bite. They are full of germs and can cause massive infection.
It's just too risky to have shark teeth penetrating a human bone. It's just too many germs involved for them to roll the dice.
4 weeks in hospital, 6 surgeries in 2 years, and a constant need to understand what happened, why it happened, leading him to a greater understanding of sharks and what it really means to be a survivor.
It doesn't know what it's doing. I was a mistake. I was just a shadow to it. It's, you know, it's got eyes out here on the side of its head. It can't see anything.
All sharks have the 6 senses, have our 5 senses plus the electrical sense. But what, you know, sort of defines them is, you know, the tiger shark does the tropics, the bull shark does the inshore coastal waters, and the great white does the cooler waters. So those 3 species have all our marine environments covered.
Research is showing that bull sharks travel great distances and have been found to return to the same spot each year. During the warmer months, they are able to go further down the Australian coast looking for prey when you least expect it.
Yeah, just look for the signs in the water and look for the lifeguards who are in the patrolled areas. If there's signs there of bait fish and birds, and ask the lifeguards if you're worried, ask the lifeguards. Just surf at a patrol beach, and you can't avoid it really. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen, but I think you can lessen your chances. I'm more acutely aware of life's short, you know, it really is. It can be just gone in a blink, you know, and I don't miss out on stuff anymore.